This video talks about the Bachelor of Science in Human Resource Management. Human resource specialists are responsible for recruiting, screening, interviewing, and placing workers. They may also handle employee relations, payroll, benefits, and training. Human resource managers plan, direct, and coordinate the administrative functions of an organization. Today, Jeff Weekly, the Program Director for the Human Resource Bachelor of Science at JSOM, is going to talk to you about this. Enjoy.
Welcome. Today we have a visit from Dr. Jeff Weekly, who runs the Bachelor of Science in Human Resource Management program. And he is here to share with us what drew him into human resources and also give us a sense of what kind of a day in the life of a human resources professional is. So take it away, Dr. Weekly.
All right. I appreciate the time. Thanks, Marilyn. I got into HR because I enjoyed solving very unstructured problems. And that is, I think, what you could expect in HR. No two days are alike, mainly because you're dealing with people. And they do some crazy things sometimes. They don't always do what you want them to do. It creates for a very exciting and changing kind of a work day. No two are going to be alike. Before I get into some examples of the kinds of issues that you would be likely to encounter in HR, I'd like to show you what the HR function looks like. In a large organization, there are going to be a variety, multiple functional areas in which you could get involved. As an example, most large organizations are going to have a talent acquisition or a department responsible for recruiting and hiring people. Training and development, another group putting together and delivering the training kinds of programs necessary to develop talent. Another group would be looking after compensation, making sure that the pay the company is offering is competitive and the incentives are impactful. Performance management, employment law. In HR, you've got to be aware of the laws that govern employee-employer relationships. Change management. If the organization is facing any kind of change, the CEO is certainly going to look to the HR function to lead that. Labor relations would be certainly a relevant topic if the organization works with unions. And HR analytics is the hottest thing going in the field today. So most large organizations are going to be represented by, if not actual functions in each of these areas, certainly they will have people responsible for all of these different activities. In terms of another way to look at HR that I like are these three roles. If you are in a senior HR role, the job, you're going to be expected to play all of these roles. One is that strategic partner. You are going to be the one they look to, the organization looks to identify what are those HR practices and policies and procedures that are going to help us execute our business strategy. They're going to expect you to identify the talent approaches that are going to, again, maximize the organization's ability to execute. You're also going to be expected to be, of course, the HR guru, keeping on top of and remaining abreast of the latest developments in HR. What are the best practices in all these different fields? And then finally, you're also going to be expected to look after the care and welfare of the employee and making sure that they are being treated fairly. And the challenging thing about this is sometimes these roles come into conflict. What might be best for the business isn't always going to be best for the employee. And successful HR executives can manage those potential conflicts and do so very effectively. Why human resource management? If you look at what's going on in the marketplace, it is one of the fastest growing areas out there. Certainly the growth in the need for HR managers is well above average. 7% projected growth versus something like 4 or 5 on average. 35th out of the 35th fastest growing job out of 800 that were looked at. And pay is very reasonable. Pay is good. In the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the average pay is actually about $126,000 a year. I just looked that up yesterday. So there's jobs out there. There's good jobs out there, and it is a rapidly growing field. So what would a career look like in HR if you were interested in pursuing that? You're going to begin certainly in an entry-level job. It could be something like a recruiter, a comp analyst. I've got 4 listed there, but there are others. And you could expect to spend maybe 1 or 2 years in an entry-level job mastering how to be a comp analyst or what a trainer does. And then it would be very common for you to take a lateral move. For example, move from recruiter to trainer. The idea and the goal of the organization would be to provide as much breadth as possible. From there, it'd be very common to move into an HR generalist job, that HR manager's job we just talked about. And here you would be responsible for all things HR, typically for a piece of the business. So you might be the HR manager for the Southeast region, and all issues HR related would flow through you. Or you might be the HR person, HR manager responsible for the IT function or something of that sort. Again, you would be a generalist role, wearing all hats for a piece of the business. If possible, taking a rotation through operations, I always encourage my students to do. If you can actually get in operations for a couple of years, it helps you understand better what drives the business, and certainly is going to enhance your credibility downstream when you're up in the C-suite. They can't accuse you of not understanding how the business works. From there, moving into a director level job where you'd have responsibility for an entire function. I've only got 3 listed here, but there are many more. And you might spend 3 or 4 years managing the entire talent acquisition function for the company, or the entire comp and benefits function. Again, another lateral movement, going from, for example, comp and benefits over to learning for breadth might precede the movement into the CHRO job, which is typically going to be part of the C-suite, where the decisions driving the business are made. There is an alternative path if you want to be a specialist. This would be what consultants typically follow. You'd start as an individual contributor in some area like recruiting, comp, change management, something of that sort. Assuming you're successful there, you'd move into a management role where you'd be leading specialists in that area. And then the final move would be up into the principal or partner level. Most consulting firms have partners or principals or things, that kind of title. And the thing to note about that is to make principal or partner, typically you have a business development focus. In other words, to make principal or partner, you're going to have to demonstrate your ability to bring in new business. So there's a sales aspect to that. And but again, it's a very lucrative career track if you can get to that level. Internships, all of our students, like everyone else in JSOM, do internships. You can see examples of the types of companies in which they've been successfully interning. Jobs, we've placed students with some amazing companies, several with Amazon here recently, Deloitte, Southwest Airlines, PwC. So in fact, I just had 2 students get accept offers with JP Morgan Chase. So we are becoming well known in the DFW area for having high quality students. Last thing I would like to leave you with are some myths, and I hear these all the time, about HR. One of which is that I should go into HR because I like people. Well, frankly, I assume everybody likes people. And I can tell you that being an extrovert is not an advantage. It's not a requirement. It's frankly irrelevant. Your job isn't to be the company cheerleader. Your job is to ensure the company has the talent it needs to execute on its strategy. So it's not essential or even important that you be an extrovert. Introverts do just fine. I can also tell you that you can't go into HR and hide because you don't like dealing with numbers. You better understand how the business makes money to be successful in HR, and be able to read a balance sheet. And certainly, as I mentioned, analytics is taking over the field. And last but not least, I love it. The fact that the HR problems that I encounter are so unstructured. You'll never see the same problem twice. So it's very challenging to figure that out. It's not an easy role because you do have conflicts you have to manage. And you can't always count on the people that you're dealing with to do what you want them to do. They certainly have free will. So you think you have people quit. People don't behave consistent with the culture, and it makes for a very interesting career.
I think that's great news. And again, I think you've shed light on an area that students might not have a whole lot of information about, or as you said, have a lot of misconceptions. So I thank you for your time. It's been illuminating, and I know the students will really enjoy your presentation. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And if any of your students have questions, please have them reach out to me.
Absolutely, will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Please reach out to Dr. Weekly if you have any questions about human resource management.